Thanks for tuning in and checking out another episode of Unlucky, a memoir. My name is Kat. Everyone has a story. This one just happens to be mine. So, welcome back. I've been tooling around up in the old noggin trying to figure out where to go on this journey next, right? And it's getting cold out, as you can probably see from my breath. It's a little chilly, but not nearly what's going on back home on the East Coast. Apparently, they're having a nice snow day today. But the cold weather takes me back right to when everything really started falling apart. Because throughout the winter of, I guess it was 2019 into 20, is when things were really kind of sliding. I had, me and my wife had parted. I moved in with a friend at his aunt's house. And then she ended up passing away, and we had to vacate that property not long after. In that process, I ended up going from there to another friend's house and crashing on the floor in his tiny room in the trailer he shared with his father. And that was horrendous. It was a horrible experience. Did not enjoy. In the process, I'm still in active addiction. Things aren't getting any better. They're just sliding worse and worse. And we keep trying to figure out ways to come up with money, get money. I'm going back to retail theft, amongst other things. We're just trying to scam any way we can. And then a day comes where my one ex-girlfriend from years earlier that we were still in contact, she was in active addiction at the time too, as was her boyfriend and other people who lived in the apartment that they had. She called me and asked if we would be able to give someone a ride. Apparently his brother dumped him off at that apartment the day or so before with his luggage and just said, "See ya." And she referred to him as a Gypsy Joe. Well, we were offered to get, if we gave him a ride, that he would take care of us, hook us up, and get us some drugs. So of course we hopped in the car, ran over there, grabbed them, and we had to run around to pawn shops and other places. And he came up with money, and we went and we got high. The next day, same routine. We took him back to our apartment that night. Next day, we came back, picked him up, and ran him around again. Took him to his old trailer, and he grabbed a bunch of stuff out of there to sell. We went, we took care of it. And then he brought up, he goes, "Hey, you guys want to work?" And of course, I'm like, "Sure." And the other guy who I was staying with at the time agreed. So he called his other brother, and his other brother was going to have a dump truck full of millings put down at somebody's yard for a driveway. And I didn't, I'd never done it before, but jack of all trades, master of none. I might as well, right? So yeah, we'll figure it out. So we end up driving up into the Poconos to help put this driveway in. And it's just his brother. The guy with the dump truck pulls up, dumps the stone, and we have to spread it, right? And kind of weird, just one guy, and then he's just hiring us, I think it was like $100 a day at that point in time to come do some manual labor. So whatever, I've worked for a lot of contractors and stuff that are like little one-man operations that just hire laborers. So we're working that day with his brother, and they get a skid steer over there, and they start, dragging the stone around. And what they had us doing, I forget what we were doing. We were edging or something. We were trying to line up the edge of the driveway. And not the guy who we were driving around, but his brother came over and started flipping. Hey, you guys, yelling at my buddy or the guy I was with. And he's over there after the guy walks in, mumbling under his breath. He screwed it up. I'm like, listen, bro. He's the boss. He's paying us. If he tells you to dig a hole and then fill it back in and dig it, you do it. It's just, you know what I mean? You want to make some money? That's what you do. He ended up getting pissed off, walking off the job. And the other guy walks over to the truck that my buddy's getting in and basically threatened his life and said, yeah, well, you walk off, that's fine. But if you leave and you don't wait around for Cat to finish doing his work and take him back, basically, he said he'd mess him up. So he sat in the car for another couple hours while we finished up the driveway. Got paid, went and got drugs, got high. And this went on for a few days of him having to drive me to the job site and him sitting in the vehicle while I worked. And finally, I talked to the guy who we were driving around. And he ended up getting a motel room up in the Poconos. And I called him. I'm like, dude, I got to get out of here, man. I can't do this anymore. Can I come crash in your motel room and just work with you and your brother? We'll figure it out and I'll chip in, blah, blah, blah. And he says, sure. So I call another friend of mine. He comes and picks me up with all my stuff. I didn't say a word to the person I was staying with until my ride got there. And his dad was actually a really nice guy. And rest in peace. I believe he passed away. But he asked me where I was going. And I told him, I go, well, I need to go because I need to be able to get back and forth to this job. And your son's a lazy POS who doesn't want to work. And he kind of agreed with me and wished me the best of luck. And I left and went to this motel room up in the Poconos. And I only thought of the story because I know it's the end of it's the playoffs in football. And I remember one of the first nights in that room, it was a Super Bowl. So I remember I had to get on the phone, get some money sent so we could cover the bill for the room that night because we were getting a little behind and there wasn't any work for a couple of days. But we're sitting in the room the next day and he gets a phone call and goes, hey, let me go outside. And he goes outside and his cousins are sitting outside. So he comes in and goes, hey, we got some new bosses. I'm like, huh? He goes, my cousins want to, it's the season starting. They're starting the season early. So they want to know if we want to work and if you can drive a dump truck. And I'm like, sure, why not? I mean, I didn't have a license, but I can drive it. And they didn't care. And they also knew that we were on drugs and didn't care. So I couldn't really say no to this. And at that point, it was $100 a day still. But along with that $100 a day was food. They got us rooms. The caveat was it was right down outside of Philadelphia in King of Prussia. So they come back the next day and we load up the rollers and all the tools because they had an F-150. They had a small dump. They had a large dump, which CDL, which they had a CDL driver for. And then they had their pickups. And so we go down to Philadelphia. And I noticed along the way that they were talking to each other in a weird language that I didn't understand, but who knows, right? So we get down there, we get motel rooms. The next day, they tell us to take the trucks and go to the plant to pick up asphalt. So I go with the smaller truck and the CDL drivers, a couple guys that lived in Philadelphia that drove the truck for him throughout the season. They came out and drove the CDL. We went, we loaded up. We're driving back. I'm like, where are we going? Like, no, we're just going to go over here and park. And I'm like, huh? Well, we have to wait for them to sell a job. I'm like, wait, what? Talk about faith, right? And soon enough, we get the phone call and a pin of an address for where to go to. And we pull up. And boy, let me tell you, it was a learning curve like no other, because it's like the circus coming to town, man. You pull in, you get everything off the trucks, you get set up, and you get gone before the customer can change their mind. It turned out they were, as some people might say, gypsies. I knew them as Romneys. Um, and this is what they do all season long, whatever that season is. It got a little, it wasn't as cold that year, so they started a little bit earlier, right after the Super Bowl. And so that would have been 2020, right? So they have a guy who's a salesman. He goes knocking doors and lets people know, hey, we have some leftover hot mix, some asphalt left over from the job we did, and wondering if you'd like us to do your driveway. And then he tells them a price, which is generally overpriced, but most people don't understand that, because when you sell it by the yard or by the square foot, it's $3 a square. Doesn't sound like a lot until you realize that you have a 3,000 square foot driveway or more. And then we get started and usually bring the homeowner out to take a look at it, and they see it, and you let them know how much square foot we have done now and where we're at money wise. And usually they tell you to stop because most people don't feel like spending an insane amount of money. The one thing I will give the people that I worked with was, because there are people out there that will go put really thin coats down that just don't hold up. We gave you a good driveway. It just cost you more than what it probably should have. But like the one owner used to say, he goes, you go to McDonald's and can get a cup of coffee for 99 cents, and then you can go to Starbucks and get one for $10. He goes, it's whatever people are willing to pay. So we did that, and we went door to door selling asphalt. And I was a grunt. I showed up, I wheelbarrowed truckloads. Some days there was 10 tons, some days there was 30 ton of asphalt that had to be wheelbarrowed. And it was a learning curve trying to figure that out, because mind you, I'd been in my addiction for quite a while now and hadn't worked manual labor in even longer. But I enjoyed it once we got going. I mean, I remember one of the first jobs we did, it started snowing. Then it's like, you're technically probably shouldn't be putting down asphalt in the snow. But we did. And we got it done. And it's amazing how quickly you can lay out a driveway when motivated to get it done and get out of there. So we did that, and we stayed at different motels all throughout the greater Philadelphia area, hitting all the townships out there. And I remember we were staying at one motel or hotel across from a Wawa, and it was right down the street from the Parks Casino. Like literally, you could walk from the hotel to the Parks Casino in 15 minutes, maybe. And there was all these rumors on the news about this super bug that was coming. And of course, I took it with a grain of salt, because I went through years and years and years of hearing about the swine flu, bird flu, avian flu, this flu, that flu, and none of them ever really came to fruition. They were built up so big and scary, and then nothing ever happened. So, of course, that's how I felt about this one. So we kept working, and we kept on making money. And we'd go to the Parks Casino, and I did really well when I was there. Apparently, I'm pretty good in the casino. We took a lot of drugs. The owners of the company did not do opiates, such as me and their cousin. But anything up, ecstasy, Xanax, things like that were their cup of tea, and a lot of alcohol. So that was every night. And then one night we start driving down the road, and I remember looking to my left as we drove by the Parks Casino, and all the lights were off. And casinos generally don't close. So that's when I was like, whoa. Like, that's when I started thinking this is serious. Because there had been talk of things closing and starting the 6 foot between people, wearing masks, all that. And like I said, it was one of those things that was like, I've heard it before, but once the casino closed, that's what really keyed into me that this might really be serious. And I remember watching the news and seeing that Vegas shut down. And that's a town that hasn't shut down since it was built. So most people would figure out, pack it up, and go sit at home. But that's not what we did, considering I lived in a hotel at the time, paid for by the people that I worked for. We had to keep working, and they were game for keep working too, and we did. The plant still kept producing asphalt. We kept picking it up, and we kept putting it down. And I did this for months until we were in a pretty cool, it was a cheap little motel, but it was right on the water. And the rooms opened up onto like balcony, like outside, that ran along the whole, all the rooms on that floor. And I remember one night having to share a floor with one of their uncles. And he liked to smoke cocaine or crack, whatever. And we didn't really get along too well. So I'm in the room, and he starts giving attitude and just, yeah, not a nice guy. So I say, you know what, screw it. I grab my stuff. I go to walk out of the room, arms full with my bags and my jacket and stuff. And as I walk out of the room, he comes up behind me and tries to kind of sucker punch me, kind of glances off. And when I turn around to confront him, the hotel room door shuts. So I'm like, you know what, screw it. I went downstairs and slept in the pickup. It's not like I haven't slept in a truck before. So this was a yellow Ford F-150 that looked like a township truck. Well, it was all worked up. So I did a shot of my dope, and then I took a Xanax that I had in the truck and went to sleep. Next thing you know, there's pounding on the truck door, and like I pull back the curtain I had set up, and it's daylight, and it was one of the owners. And mind you, when I say owners, they were in their 20s. They were young kids. These families stick together. They do well. They support each other. And they had gotten their truck and started this business. So he wakes me up and asks me what the heck I'm doing, not in such nice words. And he said, what are you still doing here? Why haven't you gone to pick up the drivers yet? And I apologize. I get out of the truck. I had like pajama pants on. And I was like, give me a second. I changed around real quick, threw my jeans on, my boots, and got back in the truck and started pulling out. Later, he would come to apologize to me because he said I should have never let you drive away, because I could see there was nobody home. And I still don't know how I made it that far. But needless to say, I believe I told this story before. I drive. I don't even know how I ended up on the highway. And I rear end the back of an 18-wheeler with their yellow Ford F-150. This ends up with me leaving the scene, getting chased down. I pull over, cops around me, and take me to the Roundhouse in Philadelphia, which is not a nice place to go. But they released me that evening, ROR. And that's when I realized how bad COVID is. There's nobody on the streets. They wouldn't let me make a phone call at the prison, and nobody would let me use their phone until I finally tracked one lady down. But with that, I'm going to stop the story for this week and pick back up next week. And again, I really appreciate each and every one of you who hangs out with me and follows me on this journey and supports this channel. I really do appreciate it.